Alright y'all, today we're looking at the Yozma IN-10. Yozma, tomato, whatever. Now yesterday, I had a chance to take this bike out for its very first ride, and it surprised me in a lot of ways. Wow, this thing is much faster than I expected. It's so nimble, dude. Wow, just like an explorer machine. This thing is amazing. This thing is awesome. Save of the century. Give me a minute while I get my stomach out of my ass. As soon as I saw the photo of this thing, I knew this thing looked pretty sick. But when I got it in person, I realized just how cool this bike actually looks. This one looks just like a miniature dirt bike. It has a solid frame, a nice seat, a decent headlight, and overall the bike looks pretty damn good. I think that's a huge factor when it comes to wanting a bike, and I think they absolutely killed it with that. Maybe my only complaint would be this plastic piece. It just looks like really cheap plastic, but if that's my biggest concern on this entire bike, then you really can't complain too much. So obviously the bike looks good, but how does it feel to actually sit on it? Now, I'm sure this bike is made for kids or adults who want to act like kids. Slug bug! The realization is hurting me a little bit. But being a pretty average height guy, I feel like I fit this bike pretty well, even though I'm only 6'10". Now, the last bike that I reviewed that was similar to this one was the Tudio, and that one I was a little bit concerned about how well it was going to perform. You send this thing off of, any relatively decent sized jumps, well, I can't promise you the frame's going to make it. But it was pretty obvious while riding this yesterday that this is a solid bike that can handle a lot more than what the Tudio could. It's not often that I sit on such a small bike and feel like I'm actually still riding a dirt bike, and that's how I feel on this one. I want to make sure that the frame is solid enough to where if you want to add some upgrades to this bike, that it could all handle it. And I can confidently say that I believe this bike would. So we know that it looks cool. We know that the build quality is better than some of the other competitors, but let's take a look at some of the specs. Now this bike has a 2600 watt mid-drive motor. It comes with a 48 volt, 23 amp hour battery and around 145 Newton meters of torque. Wow, this thing is just fast enough to have like plenty of fun. Like, it's crazy I'm not sitting here wishing that I had more power. Of course we all want more power, but crazy that out of the box you don't need it. The throttle on this is so responsive. And typically on cheap bikes, that's not something that you get. And then it even has enough power to just bring up the bike like easily. So you mix that with a smooth throttle, I mean, you could basically wheelie this thing forever, dude. This thing is awesome. Now, I'm a big fan of the mid-drive motor. It might be a little bit louder than the hub motors that you get on some of the other bikes, but I'll take a little bit louder for slightly better performance. Now, Yozma claims that this bike can go 40 miles per hour, and yesterday we tested that out. Let's really talk and see how much we can get. 39.5. 39.6. Now, there's a chance that because I'm so swole, we couldn't quite get up to 40 miles per hour, but if you lift up the back tire, put it at full throttle, you'll see that you can get 40 miles per hour out of it. I did see online that you can already upgrade the controller, and you could do the same with the Tudio, but I'd be really curious to see how much better that actually makes this bike power-wise. One of the most important things about a bike is how far can it go. They claim that this bike can get up to 53 miles on one charge, and maybe if you're in mode 1, that is possible. Right now we're probably at about 20%, maybe a little less. And we're at about 20 miles. So my guess is you could probably get about 30 miles if you ride as hard as I do. But I think if you're gonna be riding in mode 3 most of the time, it's gonna depend on your weight and everything, but you could probably get somewhere around 30 to 40-ish miles depending on how hard you're riding it. Could be anywhere between 2 to 3 hours of riding before you have to charge it again. And if you compare that to even the Sur Ron, it's actually pretty good. And then after you do your few hours of riding, you go to plug it in, it's gonna take about 5 to 6 hours to charge. But I think one of the most impressive parts of the Yozma IN-10 was the suspension. And riding this, I was so surprised at how well it performed when it came to the suspension. It can do more. All right, one more time. It still has more, dude. One more time, I promise. Here we go. That's so smooth. When I took the 2DO off of any jumps, I genuinely felt like I was going to break it. When they go off jumps, these bend like crazy. So if you're gonna slam pretty hard, well, expect to have to get some new pegs or weld some pegs back on. Now, I may not be the biggest sender in the world. I know it's close. But for people who can really jump some stuff, I actually feel confident knowing that this bike could do it. Now, typically when you buy a bike that's pretty cheap, one of the first things that they go cheap on are the brakes, and that is not how I felt with this bike at all. They might not have had as much braking power as I fully expected. Oh, okay. But I think a lot of that has to do with me just being so used to my Sur Ron. But right out of the box, I was really impressed at how well the brakes performed. And I'm sure there's a million other pros, but the last one I'm gonna go with are the tires. You actually get some really solid tires out of the box. Now, moving on to the cons, one of the first things I noticed was just how uncomfortable the seat was. I can literally feel the 2 rods in the seat. Oh, the one thing I am learning about this bike, my ass hurts already. My ass hurts like a mother, and it really hurts my ass. Another con is I don't like the fact that you have to use tools in order to get the battery out of the actual bike. It's not the biggest deal in the world, it's literally just like one socket, but I do like simplicity. It would be nice to just take off a latch and be able to pull it out every time instead of having to get your tools. Another con is the charger. I don't like the fact that when you plug in the charger, it doesn't like click or anything. It really felt to me like it wasn't all the way in. And I also felt like I was gonna bend the pins if I kept pushing. So the charger not being like a solid, like clickable cord kind of bothered me. I will say one thing that bugs me is my foot keeps hitting this kickstand, which I don't think that'll be a big problem, but you never know. And also maybe the one thing I would change too is just the location of this headlight. Or maybe if it was like a bar mount, it would just make it look a little bit more sleek, but dude, when you're talking a headlight, you're talking about like one of the cheapest mods to add to this bike. And then as far as any more cons, it's really not much else to say because overall this bike is actually incredibly good. I would love to get some Sumos on here, put some new brakes on here. I think it would be awesome to kind of do my own build on a bike like this. Probably a slightly bigger battery. You'd have a pretty fast bike with a lot of really good upgrades. There's so much potential with this bike. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the price. If I'm right, this bike goes for $1,400 brand new. And for that price, for what you get, it is probably one of the best options that you can get on the market. And I don't put that lightly. This thing is incredibly fun to ride and might be something that I end up building. But we'll see. But now that we've completed our first impression on this bike, I gotta say that this is incredibly fun, dude. So just to put it into perspective, you get a, oh shit, my God, who put that there? You get a really cool looking bike. It's got a smooth throttle. It's got pretty decent range and it's got a solid frame. All for $1,300 to $1,400. I mean, you really can't beat that. This bike's amazing, dude. So I got a feeling you guys are gonna see this bike in a few more videos. And if you guys wanna check out this bike, I'll leave a link in the description. Cause this thing's fucking sick, dude. Overall, Yozma, I think you did an incredible job. The Yozma IN-10. Pretty sick.